All right, order in the court. Consider this session officially gavelled in. Welcome back, everyone, to a very special, incredibly high-stakes explainer. Today, I'm going to be stepping into the role of your presiding judge, and we are officially putting one of the most common score-destroying habits on trial. I'm talking about relying on pre-learned material in the Cambridge Afrikaans Language AS-level speaking test. If you have ever felt that totally overwhelming urge to just memorize an entire essay the night before and then robotically recite it to the examiner, well, you are definitely in the right courtroom today. We're going to architect a bulletproof, completely spontaneous argument strategy that examiners absolutely love. So let's dive right into this. Here's a quick look at our court docket for today's proceedings. We'll start with the charge sheet, move into cross-examining the evidence, take a quick break for restocking evidence, bring you all in for some interactive jury duty, and then wrap it all up with the final verdict. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the charge sheet. So the primary case before us today is the crime of the pre-learned response. Now, in the academic world of Cambridge assessment, reciting a memorized script is literally the equivalent of committing perjury on the stand. Why? Because you aren't actually answering the specific question being asked. And you might be wondering, why does this matter so much? Well, avoiding pre-learned material and actually engaging in authentic, context-driven analysis accounts for about 15% of the total marks in Paper 2 of your Afrikaans Language 8679 assessment. 15%! Guys, that is the exact difference between a mediocre, middle-of-the-road grade and a top-tier outstanding mark. This is a massively high-stakes issue, and honestly, throwing away those precious marks on a rigid, pre-memorized monologue is just a huge strategic error. To really get to the bottom of this, I want you to picture two hypothetical junior attorneys in our courtroom today. Let's call them Counsel Alex and Counsel Sam. Now, Counsel Alex walks into the exam room with massive, incredibly deep evidence files. Alex has memorized every single fact, every historical date, every complex vocabulary word possible. But Alex completely lacks an analytical structure, so when the examiner asks a question, Alex just dumps all those memorized facts right onto the table, completely ignoring the specific, nuanced context of the prompt. We call this superficial breadth. On the flip side, we have Counsel Sam. Now, Sam is a highly persuasive speaker, great rhetoric, sounds incredibly confident, really owns the room. But Sam's argument has absolutely zero concrete physical case study backing. There's no specific application to the stimulus material that was actually provided. The problem here, both of these approaches absolutely scream pre-learned script to the examiner. Neither attorney is actually arguing the case that's sitting right in front of them. Moving right along to Section 2, cross-examining the evidence. Okay, so how do we actually fix this? Well, we need to build a rock-solid legal exam framework. And this specific process illustrates exactly how to do that. It's called the method mark strategy. I want you to think of this as your standard operating legal procedure. See, examiners don't just hand out marks for a correct final answer. They actually award marks for the analytical process you take to get there. It's a 6-step procedure. Step 1, deconstruct the question. What are the specific command words the examiner is using? Step 2, extract relevant data directly from the stimulus materials, not from your memory banks, from the actual text. Step 3, select your appropriate analytical framework. Step 4, execute your analysis with very clear, precise notation. Step 5, verify your results. Basically, do a gut check for reasonableness. And finally, Step 6, present your findings correctly. Listen, if you follow this multi-stage analytical process, it is mathematically impossible to deliver a pre-learned answer. Why? Because your entire response is being built dynamically, in real time, right from the prompt itself. Now, I am formally entering the principal examiner reports into evidence as our very next exhibit. These are direct, explicit warnings straight from the people who are actually marking your exams. So what are the top mistakes that instantly reveal a student is relying on a rigid, pre-learned answer? First step, they completely confuse cause and effect. This happens because they're desperately trying to force a pre-memorized argument to fit a totally different scenario. Second, they completely forget to check the required format and presentation. Third, and pay attention because this is the biggest red flag of them all, their answers are incredibly broad and completely ignore the specific context given in the actual prompt. And finally, they consistently fail to define key terminology before they use it. They just assume the examiner knows exactly what they mean because, well, it was written in their memorized script at home. Please, whatever you do, do not make these mistakes. All right, that brings us to Section 3, restocking evidence. We have covered a ton of crucial ground already, so I'm calling for a super quick mid-proceedings recess. Before we bring it home and present our closing arguments, I need you to ensure your legal counsel feed is strictly secured.
do me a huge favor and subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams right now. Make sure you click that bell to enable all notifications so you literally never miss one of our weekly masterclasses. We are constantly in here breaking down complex Cambridge frameworks exactly like this one, and you definitely want this crucial evidence delivered straight to your feed. All right, recess is officially over. Let's get back to the trial.
Let's imagine our two attorneys, Counsel Alex and Counsel Sam, are right in the middle of their speaking test, and suddenly they had a massive logical contradiction. Why? Because they accidentally drifted back into their pre-learned material. How on earth do they recover from that? Well, I am officially injecting the PEAL framework into the court record today as your ultimate structural standard. PEAL stands for Point, Evidence, Explanation, and Link. This framework is a lifesaver because it actively prioritizes analytical depth over just superficial breadth. It works like this. You make your point. Then you pull evidence specifically from the exam stimulus. Next, you provide your explanation of exactly how that evidence works. And finally, and pay close attention because this is the most crucial part, you link it directly back to the prompt's context. That link step at the end, that is your absolute foolproof safeguard against pre-learned material. It forcefully anchors your spontaneous thoughts directly back to the specific question sitting in front of you.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Interactive Jury Duty. All right, I am officially appointing all of you watching as the jury today. We're going to do a live workshop challenge so you can spot the exact difference between a memorized script and high-level spontaneous analysis. Let's play a game of Spot the Hearsay. Take a really good look at this breakdown. Exhibit A represents the hearsay. This is your classic pre-learned memorized material. As you can see, it is absolutely full of generalized descriptive fluff, totally unjustified conclusions, and broad generic terminology. When the examiner hears this, they immediately know you are not actually engaging with the text. Now look at Exhibit B. This represents admissible evidence. This is the stuff that gets you full marks. It demonstrates highly context-specific application, it actively evaluates alternative approaches, and it uses clearly defined terms specifically within the provided context. So here's your takeaway. If you are ever speaking in your exam and you start sounding like Exhibit A, you need to pivot immediately to Exhibit B. Throw out the hearsay.
The absolute most crucial point here is understanding exactly how the Cambridge examiners grade this admissible evidence. They use something called assessment evaluative levels. Think of it like a ladder. You start down at the base level, descriptive analysis. This is basically just summarizing what's already there. And unfortunately, a pre-learned script usually gets completely stuck right here on the bottom rung. To climb higher, you have to move up to analytical execution. This is where you actually break the problem down into logical steps and solve it systematically. But the very top tier, the absolute gold standard you should be aiming for, is evaluative recommendations. This requires actual live problem solving. You have to identify limitations in the text, check for reasonableness, evaluate the different alternatives, and then make fully justified recommendations based entirely on the actual stimulus sitting right in front of you. You literally cannot pre-learn an evaluative recommendation. It has to happen live, right there in the boardroom.
And finally, Section 5, the final verdict. All right, the court is called back to order. We've investigated the common mistakes, we've outlined the proper legal methodology, and we've fully empowered the jury. Now it's time for me to deliver the final verdict. I am officially setting down the 3 golden rules of evidence linkage, and these are derived straight from the Cambridge academic benchmarks. Rule number 1. Always define your terms before using them in your extended responses. Never just assume the examiner is going to fill in the blanks of your memorized script for you. Rule number 2, actively identify the limitations and assumptions in the evidence provided. Doing this proves you have high-level critical thinking skills. And rule number 3, honestly the most important one of all, ensure absolutely all of your logic directly targets the given context, not a pre-learned script you wrote a week ago. Ask yourself, if your answer could easily apply to 3 different past papers, it is simply not specific enough to get you the marks today.
I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought to chew on the next time you sit down for a speaking exam. I want you to honestly ask yourself, are you just reciting from memory, or are you actually arguing the specific case sitting right in front of you? Because I promise you, the absolute highest marks always go to the students who treat the exam exactly like a live boardroom trial, evaluating the fresh evidence right there in the moment. All right, I want you to drop a comment below right now with your specific target level and your subject, so we can help you build your own custom strategy. And remember, secure your legal counsel feed. Hit subscribe to @AceTheExams and click that bell for more weekly masterclasses. Thank you so much for joining me. Court is officially adjourned.